Welcome, everyone. We're very glad that you're here joining us tonight. That was a wonderful slideshow by Ken Werner from an event at the RVCC. My name is Mary Iserman, and I am a Nelson County resident, and I'm going to be the MC of tonight's digital events. I would like to take a moment to thank Jill Averett and Joyce Burton for helping to really pull everything together tonight. Thank you both so much. We are happy to be celebrating the cancellation of the ACP on the 2-month anniversary of the announcement. Every piece of opposition to this massive project helped to bring it to a point where it was no longer feasible. Tonight, we're going to focus on the efforts and hard work put in by Friends of Nelson and all of our Nelson County partners, volunteers, and those who otherwise supported the fight. But I do want to take note that it was, in whole, every diverse community along the proposed pipeline path rising up together that made this a winning fight. We really are stronger together. On that note, I'm going to quickly go over some technical housekeeping items before we begin. This meeting will be recorded so that anyone who could not make it to view it today can enjoy it at a later date. Most people came into this meeting muted. If you could please keep your audio on mute except for speakers when it's your turn to speak, that would be much appreciated. We do welcome everyone to share in the chat box. If you hover your mouse over the bottom of your Zoom window, you will see a little chat bubble, and you can chat the entire group or each other individually there. So we welcome you to send general shout outs and thank yous to the whole group, or to take care of that, use that individual chat feature. There are also several views available in the Zoom meeting. Speaker view is what I recommend for all of you to see today, but it can be quite a bit of fun to see everyone that's attending as well. That is the gallery view. You can switch between these two views by hovering your mouse over the upper right corner of the Zoom. And if you all do need to mute your speakers, you can hover your mouse over the bottom of the window and find a little microphone that you click on, and that'll mute you. If you are having any technical issues, you can try and chat privately Jill Averett, and she will do her best to help you out. We are not experts at this ourselves, so we're hoping everything goes as smoothly as possible. Thank you for listening to me through all of that. And without further ado, we'll have a slideshow of thanks, followed by several speakers who are integral to the Friends of Nelson fight. And we will finish with a second slideshow of images throughout the years. speaker tonight is going to be Doug Wellman. Doug started serving as president of Friends of Nelson less than a year ago, but his tenure started long before that. You might have seen him on countless Saturdays as he manned our anti-pipeline table at the weekly farmers market, as well as taking it on the road to spread the word at festivals and other public events. Before Doug retired and moved to Nelson County in 2009, he was a professor in the field of natural resources. Ever friendly and gently tactful, he has utilized his gift for distilling complex ideas into concise language to help educate literally hundreds of people about our ACP fight and about climate change issues in general. He does this not only in person, but anytime we need an articulate, to the point letter to the editor, we can always call on Doug and he would always deliver. He has managed our t-shirt inventory, represented us at conferences, and has sweated in the sun erecting and repairing some of our many no pipeline signs. In other words, he's willing to do whatever it takes, and we are infinitely grateful. Doug?
Perfect. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Who was that guy you're describing? We did it. Our community won. It's wonderful to see you all here. I wish we could have had this in person and really have the hugs and dancing and all that stuff that's so much fun. But unfortunately, the coronavirus is holding us off that. So please save July 5, 2021 on your calendars. And if we can, we'll have a big fest at that time, okay? Please join me in thanking volunteers Mary and Jill for all the work they put into it, along with all those people like Joyce mentioned earlier, who pitched in to help. And since you're all muted, if you'll just simply wiggle your hands like that to let them know that you appreciate all they did. Okay. The defeat of the ACP was a dramatic example of the transition we're in the midst of from dirty to clean energy. This transition is accelerating here and around the world. When I started to write something down to say tonight, it was turning out to be a letter to the editor. And my wife wisely said, no, that's not what you want. So I came up with something different, and we'll see how it goes. One of the memorable experiences I had as part of my 5 years with Friends of Nelson was reading the court ruling from the Fourth Circuit about that quoted the Lorax. Well, about 50 years ago, I spent many hours reading the Lorax to our children. And that story was burned into my mind. Basically, the story is, if you haven't discovered it or have forgotten it, there's a beautiful, beautiful world. Let me describe it in Dr. Seuss's words. Way back in the days when the grass was still green and the pond was still wet and the clouds were still clean and the song of the swummy swans rang out in space. One morning, I came to this glorious place and I first saw the trees, the truffula trees, the bright colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. So the story is that this character, the Onceler, he's called, sees these trees and thinks, wow, I could make something useful out of them. And so he chops one down, and that leads him into an industry, manufacturing something that nobody really needs, but it's very profitable and everybody wants it. And as a result, over the years, his machinery gets better and better at harvesting the truffula trees, and then they're all gone. And what do we do now? The trees and the ecosystem they supported are taken away. This is a real downer for a child, but there's a glimpse of hope at the end because there's one seed left. And the Onceler gives that. And he says, as long as enough people care, basically, we've got another chance. Which I thought, that's pretty perfect for where we are, with global warming advancing and all sorts of other things. one line that really stuck in my mind in my memory from the story was the line, "Business is business and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know." Well, it's not true. Sometimes businesses, instead of growing, need to adapt. Dominion and Duke started this fight playing an outdated hand. Fossil fuel is the era is coming to an end, as it must. Now I read recently that Dominion is seeking to be the cleanest utility in the nation. I advise us all to keep an eye on what they actually do. So in sum, we are stronger together, and working together with our allies, we have achieved a remarkable victory that will resonate through the years. I want to thank you all for being a part of it in whatever way you were. So let's go on with the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Our next speaker tonight is Ernie Reed. How lucky Nelson County is to count Ernie Reed as one of our own.
Amen.
His love of nature and commitment to protecting it led him to years of environmental activism. He has worn many hats over the years, including serving not only as president of the nonprofit Wild Virginia and also its conservation chair. He has also been the council chair for a multi-state network of conservation organizations known as Heartwood. When the pipeline was announced in 2014, he immediately drew on his existing network of conservationists for guidance, and as part of the original steering committee that formed Friends of Nelson, he gave invaluable input. He was one of our earliest advocates for citizens' refusal of Dominion's survey requests, a tactic which threw a huge wrench in Dominion's plans. Ernie's ability to connect with and empower people made him a natural to take on a leadership role in our fight. He has served as both vice president and president of the Friends of Nelson board. He was part of the Allegheny Blue Ridge Alliance's steering committee. And since 2018, he has been an elected member of the Nelson County Board of Supervisors, where he has continued to work tirelessly for the protection and betterment of our county. Thank you, Ernie.
Wow, thank you. It's just so humbling, and I'm just filled with so much gratitude to be part of this community. You know, the diversity of it and the power and the numbers and the individuals that we had, that we have now, and built from back in 2014 is pretty remarkable. I wanted to focus initially on some things that maybe others don't know as much about, and that has to do with our county government, since that's kind of where I sit these days. The Nelson County Board of Supervisors was the first body to stand up in opposition to the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And there was other things that the county did as well that were fairly remarkable. One of them was that the county refused any terms of mitigation for the potential destruction of the historical and cultural lands in both in the Rockfish Valley and in the Wingina area, which was pretty remarkable at the time, not knowing exactly if we were giving things away or if we were taking the right stand. And then finally, the Board of Zoning Appeals in the county refusing to grant variances across our floodplains was really huge. I remember that night at the middle school, high school auditorium when the vote was tied 2-2, and Carol Saunders was the vote that was going to decide what was going to happen. And when she voted in favor of denying the variances, I just felt, oh my God, what just happened? And it turned out that had this thing gone to term, that may have been the very piece of this entire puzzle that could have kept the pipeline from ever coming through Nelson County. But regardless, the negotiating the path through the through the Board of Supervisors and the County Administrator's Office couldn't have happened without Alan Hale and Connie Brennan and Tim Padalino, an early planner that worked on our floodplain ordinance, and all the individuals that lobbied and talked and wrote letters to the editor and really did not give our elected officials the opportunity to say no to the things that we knew needed to happen in the county. But you know, this was really, I think of this as being one of a series of things that have happened in Nelson County that are quite remarkable, because you never know what's going to happen when you get into these battles, although you don't let that deter you from moment to moment to do the things you need to do. I'm thinking back to December of 1989, when on a real snowy night at the then Nelson County Middle School, a group of citizens in Nelson County called Virginians for a Healthy Environment, led by Kevin Crow and many others, put on a public display of specialists in many areas to lay forth the reasons why the Ground Wave Emergency Network should not build a tower in Nelson County, and why the entire program was a terrible idea. And nobody could have foreseen at that time, battling forces that, of course, everyone said were too big to beat, that the Cold War was imminently ending, and the need for a nuclear war communications tower in Congress and Senate was deemed no longer fundable. And lo and behold, that entire program went away. And Nelson County citizens played a huge role in that. And you could go back 10 years before to 1978, when APCO had proposed building 2 nuclear reactors at the intersection of the Ty and the James River. And it seemed like we were destined to have a nuclear power plant setting down in Nelson County. And a young attorney named Debbie Wyatt helped create safe alternatives for the future of energy. And the citizens in Nelson County turned back that. Nobody would have believed that just a few months later there would be a meltdown at 3 Mile Island, and it would become universally recognized that nuclear power was not the thing, especially not in Nelson County. So we have a history and a legacy, and I would even say that Nelson County has that little bit of magic in the county itself to advocate for what's right, to keep the worst things out of our county, and to keep our citizenry as well as our lands empowered to withstand the onslaughts that we are probably destined to see happen in the future. So my deep thanks to everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to everyone tonight.
Thank you, Ernie. And thank you for all the work you do and continue to do. Our next speaker this evening is Greg Bupert. There is no way to express adequate appreciation for the efforts of the Southern Environmental Law Center. From the beginning, the Southern Environmental Law Center Senior Attorney Greg Bupert has been an invaluable resource to us. He's been a steadfast ally and an effective advocate for the cause. Greg and the SELC team have not only done much of the heavy legal lifting, but have always taken the time needed for genuine collaboration. Thank you, Greg.
Well, Mary, thank you for that nice introduction. I have the privilege at SELC of being sort of in the point person seat, but on the Atlantic Coast Pipeline Project, but there was a whole cadre of lawyers and staff working on this, and some of them are on the call tonight. And when I mentioned that I'd be joining the Friends of Nelson celebration Zoom Saturday night, my colleague Mark Sabbath, who I see is out there on the call, said, "Well, this will be the best Saturday night since March." So, and I think he's right. I went to that. I've been working on this project for 6 years, like so many of you. And I went to one of the first things I did was went to the public meeting in Highland County in Monterey with Lou Freeman. That was in August of 2014. And it was a really small meeting. There were a few citizens there, and there were probably more people from Dominion there. But the message to that small group was clear from Dominion. Their view was this pipeline was going to be built, and it was time for communities and citizens to get on board. I am awfully glad to say, man, they sure didn't know what they were getting into, did they? It was so impressive how quickly everyone in Nelson County got organized back in 2014. And as you all know, no public meeting in Nelson County, the public meetings in Nelson County were never small. Since 2014, SELC and myself and Mark and our other colleagues have had the pleasure and honor of representing Friends of Nelson in court. We've been working with Ernie and David and Doug and the great folks at Friends of Nelson to fight the ACP. As I was making my notes today, I remembered that the last time I had seen Ernie in person was 4 a.m. On the street in front of the Supreme Court. We were all waiting to get into the Supreme Court arguments, and Ernie had been out there all night or most of the night. It's hard to imagine a more dedicated group of citizens. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest reason the Atlantic Coast Pipeline was defeated. You and all of the communities all along the route never gave up. It's always good to try to remember just how far we've come. Back in 2014, I had never worked on a pipeline or worked on opposing a pipeline, and really didn't know very much about how FERC worked. But when we started to dig into it, what we discovered is that FERC generally approved every pipeline that was proposed, and that was the way this process worked. And even worse, lawsuits against FERC were forced to wait while pipelines were built. And we couldn't find back in 2014 a single example of a situation where citizens were able to mount an effective opposition to a gas pipeline. And I've said this to folks over the last couple of months. I don't think any of us realized it at the time, but what we've done over the last 6 years, in addition to all of us basically earning PhDs in how pipelines work and the laws and that apply to pipelines and natural gas. We all know more about natural gas than we ever wanted to, but we've also written the book for other communities on how to stop a gas pipeline. And that's really an amazing accomplishment. So many things have been protected in Nelson County. Private farmland and forests, the George Washington National Forest, the Blue Ridge Parkway and Appalachian Trail, conservation easements, rivers, streams, and wetlands, historic properties in the Rockfish Valley and in Wangina. And of course, Dominion utility customers have been protected from billions in costs, plus the 15% yearly profit that was going to be paid to Dominion and Duke shareholders. And the list of all the things that have been protected from the Atlantic Coast Pipeline just gets longer when you when you think about the entire route from West Virginia down to North Carolina. But one thing's always been true is that Nelson County has always been, in addition to being a very special place, in my view, it's always been the emotional backbone of the opposition to the ACP. And so when reporters would call and say, I want to get out before the Supreme Court case, for example, I want to get out and see the Appalachian Trail where the pipeline will cross, we always made sure to send them through on a route through Nelson County so they could see all of the signs that said no pipeline all over the county. And every time the reporters, when we either we met at the trail or talked afterwards, they commented on the opposition in Nelson County. So what's next? Well, I think the first thing, and hopefully you all have been able to do some of this already, is we all get to think about other things. And it's not an exaggeration for me that, and I'm sure this is true for many of you, I've received an email about the pipeline every day for the last 6 years, and that includes all major holidays. So, but my email has definitely slowed down, which is great, and I hope you all are able to let go of some of that stress that we all felt for the last 6 years. We're Mark and I and the other folks at SCLC are we're going to keep an eye on restoration. I think that's an important issue that is not resolved now, but needs to get resolved. And we've written a letter on behalf of Friends of Nelson and others to FERC, setting out what we think should happen with restoration. In that same letter, we also made recommendations, and Dave Schwiesow was very helpful in crafting those for what happens to easements that have already been granted. And I think finally, we need to take this win and we need to hold Dominion's feet to the fire and make sure this utility actually pursues cleaner energy and environmental justice. Thank you. It's been so great to be with you tonight and to work with all of you and to get to know many of you over the last 6 years. Thank you all for just never giving up.
Thank you very much, Greg. Up next, we're going to have a musical interlude. It's a song by Gene and Gayla Mills. Gene wrote the song and Gayla created the video. I would like to, at this time, invite Gene to give a brief introduction to the story behind the song before we view it.
Hi, everybody. When I wrote this song, I was taking things straight out of the pages of the Nelson County Times and stories that I heard from many of the people in the path of the pipeline. When I wrote it, I wasn't trying to write a fight song or an anthem. I was actually just trying to write a story song that told the truth about what was happening. But in this battle over the pipeline, it's hard to write a song that tells the truth without it turning into a fight song. And that's sort of what happened. Our musical contribution is pretty insignificant in comparison to the unceasing work that so many of you have been doing for 6 years. But I hope that if there were times when your spirit was flagging a little bit, that maybe it gave you a little jolt of inspiration. Thank you for listening and watching. Thanks for all the kind words that we've had about the song, but mostly thanks so much to all of you for your awe-inspiring work that's produced this incredible victory. Congratulations.
This land, it holds my grandparents' bones, trees planted by their hands, and the house they built from timber and stones they cleared from that rich bottom land. I swallowed hard when they widened the road, took half an acre of mine. But the road is something we all own and use, not some company's bottom line. Hey Dominion, you don't have dominion over me. You don't have the right to take my land. Against your lawyers, your lackeys, your money and your lies, my neighbors and I will make a stand. You might win, but we'll fight to save our land. Christmas Eve, a letter in the mail told me I was being sued. They say I have to let those surveyors in. They're trying to push that pipeline through. Teresa Jones, who carries the mail, told me I was not alone. Scores of families got letters just like mine and spend Christmas fearing for their homes. Hey Dominion, you don't have dominion over me. You don't have the right to take my land. Against your lawyers, your lackeys, your money and your lies, my neighbors and I will make a stand. You might win, but we'll fight to save our land. You got money, you got power, you think you'll ram that pipeline through. But all your might doesn't make you right, and we'll fight to stop you. Hey Dominion, you don't have dominion over me. You don't have the right to take my land. Against your lawyers, your lackeys, your money and your lies, my neighbors and I will make a stand. You might win, but we'll fight to save our land. We won't quit, we'll fight to save our land.
It's a wonderful song and video that came out of a not so great situation. Thank you for that. Our next speaker this evening is Ben Cunningham. Ben is born and raised in Nelson County. Early in the fight, he joined the anti-pipeline efforts, and after he graduated from college, he brought his energy back home to Nelson. He joined the Friends of Nelson board in 2016, and he has worked to help the Allegheny Blue Ridge Alliance, ABRA, build the GIS mapping system that has enabled pipeline fighters to compile and analyze key information about the lands that ACP proposed to impact. Then, when ABRA launched the Pipeline Compliance Surveillance Initiative, Ben, who is also a licensed drone operator, became their Virginia field coordinator. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Mary. All right, and thanks everyone for gathering here in your homes to celebrate our community's historic victory. As Mary said, for those of you that don't already know me, my name is Ben, and I'm the Virginia Field Coordinator for the Allegheny Blue Ridge Alliance, as she said. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, the Virginia Field Coordinator, holy smokes. I know. But today I'm here to tell you that I really wasn't always this important. No, once upon a time, I was just like many of you. The year was 2014, and I was a newly declared geography major at the University of Mary Washington when I heard the news. Dominion Energy plans to build a huge natural gas pipeline straight through my Nelson County, of all places. Not in my backyard, I said. So I went along my academic career, making every GIS, Geographic Information System, for those that don't know, and human geography class project that I could revolve around my hometown and the massive infrastructure project planned to bisect it. By senior year of college, my perspective had grown to include a lot of the local to global concerns around ACP. And I joined Daniel Schaefer and Rick Webb of Dominion Pipeline Monitoring Coalition for my capstone GIS project. As Mary said, and we ended up creating one of the first of many comprehensive analytical online mapping tools that displayed the environmental impacts of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And I got to say, I really can't thank Dan or Rick enough for mentoring me during this time and later on. And I also can't thank enough whichever one of you Friends of Nelson folks introduced me to them to, because I don't remember who it was, to be honest. But despite me not remembering which of you fine folks introduced me to those two, the leadership at Friends of Nelson, as Mary said, liked me and my volunteering enough to ask me to join the board in 2016. So in addition to bringing the median age of the board down by just a few decades, I was also the only one who did not bring a Toyota Prius to each board meeting parking lot. So you can forget what you've heard. We environmentalists are not all the same. Some of us drive Subarus. Okay, so back to the story. At the time, as you all might remember, ACP was receiving every rubber stamp in its path, and construction really seemed imminent in our little county. Our coalition, the Allegheny Blue Ridge Alliance, and I, as a member representing Friends of Nelson, we began formulating a plan to watch any construction activity like hawks. And so, just like that, the Pipeline Compliance Surveillance Initiative was born. Easy as cake. Just kidding. With immense cooperation between people from nearby Buckingham to faraway Upshur County, West Virginia, a new way to fight pipelines was born. A hotline for relaying intelligence on the enemy was established. Information gathering teams of CSI trained neighborhood watch groups, including many of y'all, kept tabs on surveyors stalking the route, among other activities. We even had the help of airplane pilots carrying photographers riding shotgun, documented construction going on far out of sight and deep in the mountains. As Mary said, I myself trained even some of you to use drones to do the same. All construction violations, as you may or may not remember, that we observed were documented on our online mapping system with complaints sent to government agencies for shame, to media for notice, and to lawyers for ammunition. So all that schooling really came through, as similar programs were then established by others in North Carolina and in Southwest Virginia to fight Mountain Valley Pipeline with citizen science as well. So with the pipeline now canceled, we in ABRA have translated our lessons learned into a new program called the ABRA Conservation Hub. The program is meant to provide responsible resource management by providing data-focused tools that enhance a given project's transparency and to strengthen its accountability to regulatory agencies and facilitate public participation in its evaluation process. Basically, a lot of the same goals and work that we did with the CSI, but now with a focus on a larger region and not with the common enemy of this pipeline. That said, the CSI is also poised to continue keeping an eye on the restoration process of ACP now that it's been vanquished. So before I reluctantly hand this this lovely spotlight back to some other really great Nelsonians and others, I really want to be real with you. I wouldn't be the person I am today without so many of you all's influence and encouragement and example. And I think all y'all know we really couldn't have done this without the help of so many outside of Nelson County, as a few folks said before me. And since we're here to pat ourselves on the back, they couldn't have done it without us either. So it really does take a coalition. I've grown a lot since my days on the board of Friends of Nelson. I'm a little older. I'm a good bit wiser. I think but. One thing from this group has really rubbed off on me. Yesterday, I finally caved and I bought a Toyota Prius. So So, thank you all. I really wish I could name more names, but I think a lot of you know who you are, and then I'd have to name every name, and you know how that goes. So thank you to the folks who organized this call, and for inviting me to speak on it. It's really this type of community spirit that convinced me to get a tattoo of Nelson County on my leg. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for the work that you've done and that you continue to do. Our next speaker has a bit of a long introduction, as she has done a whole lot for us through the years. Joyce Burton lives in the Shannon Farm community, which was on the original pipeline path. She has been part of the fight since the beginning, volunteering with multiple groups. In 2014, she spearheaded the creation of a 2,600-acre greenfield ag forestry district to put formal development restrictions on the lands. When the alternative pipeline routes were announced, Joyce was part of a team that reached out to newly impacted landowners to help them get quickly up to speed on how to resist. She and Randy Whiting were instrumental in a steep slope study along the route in Nelson, working with landowners to get soil scientists access to some of the most remote and vulnerable locations so that we could credibly alert FERC to the landslide risks that ACP had ignored. Joyce has also monitored legal cases and has tracked every easement signed in Nelson, providing vital information to landowners who sought Friends of Nelson's help. When she stepped down from the board in 2018, she became our official landowner liaison and works closely with ABRA's Compliance Surveillance Initiative. Thank you, Joyce.
I thought somebody else was speaking before me, but that's okay. I can make it work. After the route of the pipeline shifted in 2015 and the land that I live on was no longer in Dominion's crosshairs, folks sometimes ask me why so many of us whose lands were now safe stayed in the fight. My answer was because the things that made it wrong on my land make it wrong on their land too. The truth of that has been driven home to me over and over in the years since, and my heart still aches for the stress and suffering that some of our neighbors have endured during these years. The fear, the uncertainty. Many had to put big chunks of their lives on hold. Some lived to the end of their lives still carrying the weight of feeling bullied and hopeless and backed into a corner. And ACP had already been given the power of eminent domain, and the eminent domain courts had made it very clear that they weren't going to let our people keep their land. And yet we kept fighting. Hashtag Nelson Strong. I am so deeply proud of us. Although we didn't always agree on tactics, we never lost sight of our common goal, to protect the health and safety of our people and our lands. There was no way to know what ultimately would do the trick. We could only hope for ACP's death by 1,000 cuts, as we called it. So we stood on the shoulders of the Keystone XL and other pipeline fighters and tried to build as broad a coalition as possible. We figured the more arrows in our quiver, the better. Together, we are stronger. And against all odds, in the end, who knew? We won. What a glorious thing. So many people here in Nelson and all across Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina all refused to give up. And our lawyers refused to give up. It was amazing. And while this long fight certainly cost our community dearly, I think that there were some silver linings, maybe even some golden linings to our shared experience here. How many of us connected with Nelson neighbors, indeed with good folks all over the state and the country that we hadn't known before? How many friendships were forged or strengthened? How much stronger are we as a community now than we were 6 years ago? I pray that what we learned in this, the bridges we built, will help us face with greater openness, patience, and grace whatever other challenges lie ahead for us as a community and as a country. Hashtag Nelson Strong. But much as I want us to enjoy basking in this glow, I also don't want us to forget that our work isn't actually over yet. There are over 100 landowners in Nelson and a couple thousand more along the rest of the route who still have a battle ahead of them to try to get released from the easements that most felt they had no choice but to sign, given the eminent domain card which FERC had given to ACP. Furthermore, those whose trees have already been cut or have had their land bulldozed and pipe laid have no confidence that FERC will ensure that ACP will adequately restore those lands in the short term, or in the long term make good if there are problems with the quality of that restoration in the future. We must support those folks in their pursuit of a more just outcome from all of this. We also must not leave the folks still working so hard to stop the Mountain Valley Pipeline to have to fight their battle alone either. Today is the 2-month anniversary of our victory over the ACP. But do you know what else today is? Today is also the 2nd anniversary of the start of the yellowfinch tree sits in Elliston, Virginia. Pipeline fighters have been living up in those trees for 2 whole years. Just sit with that idea for a minute. There, but for the grace of God, go we. Contrary to what MVP would have you believe, that project is not nearly as close to finished as they're claiming that it is. ACP doesn't have a monopoly on misleading, bullying tactics. And Nelson is not the only place with steep, landslide-prone slopes that are worth protecting. What made this wrong when it was going through the land I live on makes it wrong going through my neighbor's land as well. And what made it wrong for the ACP to try and crash through Nelson also makes it wrong for the MVP to plow through those lands to our west. Tired as we are of fighting and relieved as we are to know that the ACP has been stopped, we owe it to our neighbors and to our grandchildren to not walk away from the rest of the battle at hand. If you feel inspired to help out, please go to thefriendsofnelson.com, and on our cover page, we've provided links to the Power Coalition and some of the other groups that are leading the effort to stop the MVP. Thank you. Mary, if you want to do the other speaker, and then I can introduce the last one after that, would that work?
That's perfect. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Michelle Mattioli from Virginia Organizing. Virginia Organizing has been a key Friends of Nelson partner. They provided the infrastructure that was needed for our grassroots organization to get off the ground. In her role as Special Projects Coordinator, Michelle has provided expert guidance and kept track of important deadlines and filings. More than that, Michelle was always encouraging, positive, kind, and most importantly, patient with the Friends of Nelson leadership transitions and getting new folks up to speed. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. Virginia Organizing honors the hard work of Friends of Nelson over these last 6 years, and we are really happy to share in this victory celebration. I mean it when I say that your courage and energy and creativity and steadfastness are truly an inspiration for all of us. And like Joyce just said, you have built a really beautiful community from this struggle. I would come from Charlottesville to the community center for many meetings, and it's just inspiring and beautiful to see how you all have come together. So what Virginia Organizing does is to organize communities statewide in Virginia on social justice and environmental issues. And we focus on raising the voices of the people who are directly affected instead of speaking on behalf of them, because they are the experts on what they and their communities need. And so through our leadership development training, people gain the skills that they need to effectively pressure decision makers. But another thing that we do is to accept grants and donations on behalf of community groups like Friends of Nelson through our 501c3, so that you all can focus your time and energy and resources on your mission while we take care of bookkeeping, audits, insurance, and other kinds of nonprofit support. And we have been really pleased to be in partnership with Friends of Nelson since the beginning of the ACP fight. We are also in partnership with Friends of Buckingham, Power, Preserve Giles County, Preserve Montgomery County, Virginia, Southern Appalachian Mountain Stewards, the Clinch Coalition, the Virginia Poor People's Campaign, Virginia Clinicians for Climate Action, and a longer list of other important environmental groups. And again, I'm glad to have been behind this because I would love for us to focus our energies and considerable grassroots power on stopping the MVP and other proposed fossil fuel infrastructure in Virginia. After you all enjoy a nice, long, well-deserved rest, because my goodness, what a fight it's been. One other piece is that Virginia Organizing has a statewide environmental justice strategy committee, and we are working to stop the environmental degradation that corporations try to dump on low-income communities, communities of color, rural communities, where they sometimes wrongly assume that people have no idea what's coming or what to do with it or how to fight it. And I think that narrative may have changed in a big way. So we're going to keep the pressure on to make sure that the new environmental justice legislation that was passed in the General Assembly is implemented, because we actually got a law that says you cannot keep dumping on communities, the underbelly of the energy industry. So I want to thank you again for demonstrating that through grassroots organizing and the death by 1,000 cuts of strategic tactics, so creative, so heartfelt, and the effective legal work, David can send Goliath packing, and you all did it. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We did not do it without you and the Virginia Organizing Group. Joyce, if you'd come back on to introduce our final speaker.
Sure. So in my work with landowners along the route, I end up getting reminded over and over again of the many, many, many different and compelling reasons to try to stop the ACP. But Wisteria Johnson, her family and their land will always represent for me one of the most powerful inspirations for sticking with our fight. I'm still haunted by Wisteria's words at the memorial that we held after ACP clear-cut the trees at the Wintergreen entrance. She spoke of how she actually talks to the mountains and how she'd been apologizing to the one her family lives beneath for the trauma that she feared would be visited upon it at the hands of greedy humans in the ACP. What was so powerful to me that day was that her emotion was centered not around what might happen to her and her family if the ACP destabilized the slopes above their home, not of what might happen to the land's resale value. It was not about her, but rather it was about what might happen to the mountain, to its free-flowing stream and all the living things there and downstream that depend on its intact ecosystem. For at least 7 documented generations, her family has lived on and loved that place. And in keeping with the heritage of their ancestors, they viewed their role as stewards, not owners of the land. It makes me wonder what a difference it might make to our world, to our great-grandchildren's world, if more of our society chose to focus on our obligation to the land, rather than simply treating it as if it owed something to us. And so with that thought, let me hand the mic over to Wisteria and her family over in Harris Cove. This is Wisteria's daughter, Dina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dina Mitchelton-Shaver, and I am an on-record 6th-generation steward of the mountains that tower above us in Harris Cove. We are currently standing at the foot of Bailey Mountain, one of the 2 mountains that was scheduled to be scalped and imploded by ACP. Willoughby Mountain is our other mountain. This banner that's behind me is a form of us saying, thank you so much. Thank you, guys, can you wave and say thank you?
Thank you.
It is a sign of our heartfelt gratitude for all of your hard work. The handprint that range, maybe you can get close, the handprints that range from the oldest 5th generation to the youngest 7th generation person. Those people holding the sign behind us are 6th and 7th generation folks. So guys, can you wave and say a big thank you?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And then we'll reverse it to come out. You can move on. You can move on. My name is Wisteria Harris Mitchelton Johnson. I stand very humbled by your efforts in helping create this miracle and saving the mountains of Nelson. Because of you,
each of you, all of you, these old monuments can continue to proclaim their dignity. I'm so happy about that. They can continue to service themselves and us, our environment, our headwaters, our wildlife, our topsoil. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. For this, we all are truly, truly grateful to all of you. I want to take this public opportunity to express my personal gratitude to all of those that have already been thanked. I have been SELC, the U.S. Fourth Circuit Court, all of the presidents of Friends of Nelson. I could just go on and on and on with just naming so many people. Personally, I want to thank Janice Jackson and Chapin Wilson, for without them leading us, our family would have been lost in this process. I also want to thank Virginia Donswar from Unlimited Trout, or Trout Unlimited, I'm sorry, that came faithfully for 4 years, every month or so, to make sure that the waters were consistently being tested in the event we needed to bring up an issue before ACP on the other side. She was faithful, and so was Jim and Gail Troy, and so also Sharon Ponton. So many people I can't even begin to thank. Joyce, you have been one of the lights in our life. And that's what you gotta understand, folk. When you feel helpless, to see people like you out there working to help the people or the stewards of this land, the landowners, if you want to be called that, but we consider ourselves up here in Harris Cove stewards. And we've considered them for many, many generations, many generations. We only can attest to 7 on record. I'm getting emotional now. And what I want to do at this particular point is to close my segment. I've asked my husband, Brad, to give a prayer for their, a prayer. For all of those that believe in prayer, please join him. For those that don't, please know that this is our highest show of gratitude to you. Brad?
Let's pray. Thank you, God, for this time of peace, and Father, for the salvation of earth along the proposed pipeline project for ACP. Father, we thank you for all the wonderful folks that have worked so hard to save this piece of the world and this piece of the earth and the atmosphere from the destruction. Lord. Give us all continued strength, oh God, Lord, to continue to challenge and to hold on to this world that we live in. Lastly, please bless all these wonderful people, their homes and their families. And Father, we ask it all in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you. Back to whoever.
Thank you, Deanna Wisteria, and your whole family. That was truly beautiful. It is amazing to see everyone who has come together as a community and made it possible to win this fight. There really is so much strength in coming together. It's something important to remember in these times we are in. Though we are not able to physically be together and adequately honor everyone tonight, we do look forward to doing so safely in person next summer. For now, please enjoy this slideshow of photos through the years, and we look forward to being in touch again. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. It was so nice to see everyone's smiling faces through that whole slideshow
Thank you, guys.
meeting. But thank y'all for coming, and until next time.
Thank
Oh,
you.
God.
Night.
Thank you,
everyone. All right.
Thank you.
Nelson,
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good show.
Amazing victory, everybody.
Bye. Perfect.
Thanks, Greg.
Namaste.
You guys are so cool.
Congratulations, Roll.
Good job.
Excellent job. Thank you.
Hi, Dick.
Yay. Hooray. Good night.
Y'all.
Hey.
Good night.
Night.
Love you all.
Good job,